Hi, my name is Bill McIntosh, and I have spent the better part of the last probably 20 years, maybe even more, looking at the subject of sight reading as it applies to band instruments, orchestra instruments, even say bass guitar, something like that. And what I'd like to do is to kind of explain to you how I got to this point, and maybe it will help you to become a better sight reader. I think maybe more importantly is for you to look at sight reading different than maybe you have in the past. It's probably the most across the board, most troublesome area when you talk to music educators, when you talk to professional musicians. And at the same time, there's very little done in the way of systematic instruction that helps take care of the problem. Now, you need to understand how I came to this point. I like to say that I'm an expert on sight reading because for a long time I really stunk at sight reading. I was terrible, and most people who write books, which yes, I have written a textbook on it, but most people who are, quote, experts are normally ivory tower academic types that have not problem they're writing about. Well, I'm not that person. I can tell you that if there was an organization called Sight Readers Anonymous, I would have to stand up at every meeting and say, "Hi, my name is Bill. I'm a terrible sight reader." But, you know, I went from being a terrible sight reader to eventually writing a book on how to become a better sight reader that's been endorsed by Bobby Shew and Chuck Findley and Dan Miller, Tom Bones Malone, and others. And, you know, that's a big jump. And how did I first become a terrible sight reader? I think as educators, we have to look at that. I had a great ear. And it was a blessing, but it was also a curse. It was a blessing when it came to playing at church because I could just join in and play along with everything. Now, the curse was that because there's so much repeating exercises over and over in the beginning, and I might say that I have been I got a master's degree in music, and I have taught both middle school, high school band, so I know what it's like to stand up front of a classroom. Well, most of the time in beginning band, we play these exercises over and over and over. Well, with me having a great ear, once I heard it one time, I could play it. And I might also add that my stand mate for a good bit of that early time was my neighbor and my friend, Tony Kirkland. Well, Tony eventually became Dr. Anthony Kirkland, who's now retired from the Air Force Band in Washington, D.C. and teaches trumpet at Mississippi State. So if I heard Tony play it once, which Tony really learned how to read music from the beginning, all I had to do was hear him play it for once. I had it. Then when we had playoffs, we had to go down the line and play it. I played it. And my band director, like many of you and myself at the same time, just assumed, okay, Bill understands this music. Well, I didn't. Well, as I realized I was not very good at reading music, I would start asking people, well, how can I become a better sight reader? Well, you might as well have been asking about the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or where's Waldo or where are the clowns or maybe about the golden magic bullet in Dallas at Dealey Plaza. For such a universal problem, I never could find anyone that could really give me any concrete information on how to improve this skill. So I was probably 23 or 24, and I went to a trumpet lesson with Mr. Larry Black. Larry's what I consider one of the finest teachers in the country. He's now retired from the Atlanta Symphony, lives up in North Carolina, and a great guy. And among his many students, he had this other student that some of you trumpet players may have heard of, Christopher Martin of the Chicago Symphony, I think now of New York. Anyway, I drove 5 hours one way for a lesson with Mr. Larry Black. I went up there to become a better trumpet player. At the end of the lesson, one of the things he told me was that you're a terrible music reader, but I can improve that. That's like the aha moment. That's like the Hallelujah chorus. The clouds have opened and I've heard the Hallelujah chorus. Finally, someone who can give me some direction here, because without being a good sight reader, my career had gone as far as it could go. I was fine playing these little short passages, but when the music got more complex and longer, all of a sudden, what I had not learned in the beginning was killing me now. So, Larry turned me on to some really simple but solid systematic things that I could do that would improve my sight reading. And as I did those things, I went from being an okay musician to a professional musician who I played all over the world. I've been to Europe twice. I've played with my heroes. For a poor boy from South Georgia, it's meant a lot to me. Well, when I was teaching middle school, I started writing down and simplifying some of the concepts that I had learned in my journey, and started using them in my class. And one exercise led to another, and then to another, and to another. And then after I finished a stint playing trumpet in the show orchestra on Royal Caribbean Cruises, I came home and I sat down and I put all of this stuff into a book. I'd like for you to buy the book and everything, but the biggest thing here is I want you to know how I came to this point, and that what I tell you is based on personal experience. It's based on leather meeting the road. I think that it's effective, but the biggest thing is I want you to kind of put aside any preconceived notions you have about sight reading. And I've got 2 or 3 more little short videos that I'm going to put together, and hopefully when you get through with that, it's going to kind of give you a fresh approach to the way you look at sight reading, and hopefully make you a better player or make you a better teacher. Thanks, and until the next video, as I always say, keep it real like a government check. Peace.